In this video, you're going to practice SQL with some practical data. We're going to take SQL questions and apply them to a data set that is in the internet. Join me today as we do this. First, we're going to start by loading the data. We're going to go to MySQL tutorial. We're going to get information from there. And then we're going to load the data into MySQL database. And we are going to do this in the next steps using Docker. So I have my Docker environment set up, and what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to open this file that I obtained from MySQL tutorials, and I'm going to open that file, and I'm going to do something that is quite interesting. I'm going to open it with text edit. I'm going to just copy the information within the file, and I'm going to paste it into MySQL. There's a number of ways to do this. This is how I'm going to do it today, and it's going to fail. And the reason it's going to fail is actually some of these programs like TextEdit will change some of the underlying code. So this is going to fail. You're going to see an error, and I wanted you to see this just in case you run into the same error. Um, after we run into this error, we're actually going to use a different command. We're going to use a pb copy, and that's a Mac command, and we're going to paste that. And then when we press enter, it's actually going to load the information into the database. So in that, so once we see that that's all loaded, it looks well, and that's how we're going to use it moving forward. If you don't have Docker set up, I recommend setting up Docker in this way. Okay, so now that we have our data loaded, let's go to the first question. What is the value returned when running this query? So I give you a query, so it's really just about copying this query and seeing what the value is. So we go to our MySQL, we enter the query, and we look at the value. It's that simple, but it also makes sure that it ensures that your environment is set up. So that's why we're doing this today. We're making sure that, look, we can actually enter a SQL command, and we're going to see the result. So we saw that result was 12. We'll move on to the next question. Which of the following clients did not have multiple payments where check number like M and amount greater than 5,000? So I give you a set of 4 that you can check. And so one of the things I forgot is what are the tables that we loaded? So I actually queried that. And then I realized I need to know a little bit more information about this file. So I forgot what the tables look like. I needed to have a reference. So it's always good to have handy your ERD diagram, or have handy your SQL statements in which you use to create the database. So I look for the payments table here. I see the check number. I see the customer number. So I'm getting myself reacquainted with the fields here. And once I do that and I feel comfortable, then I go back to the query and start typing out my query. Um, and so I want to select, I'm selecting payments, selecting everything from payments, and I'm going to do a left join with customers, and then I'm going to do an on, right? So this join is going to be on customer number, and so I want to make sure that's right. And then I do a select all sometimes, but um, then I decide when to actually limit the information that I return. So sometimes I'll start with star, and then I know I can easily change that. So I have my results. There's 12 results here, and that was, I remember, it might be easier if I actually look for the customer name and not just star, right? So that's the next thing that I start to look at here. And so I say, okay, C is the reference that I gave my customers, but that really doesn't help us. So I go back and I change that to customer name. And there we go. So we have the customer names. I can actually use distinct so that I don't have to look and see which one is which. but I can get my answer by just looking at these values. There's only 12 of them, and so this is a good way to do it. So we're going to write a new query, and the query is to determine all customers that have no payments. What I do in this query is to determine customers that have no payments. I know I need the customers table. And there's two ways to do this query. So I go back and I start writing this query. And I know that there's two ways to write this query. One way is to use a join. So there's no payment, so I'm going to select all the customers from the customer table, and then I'm going to join in with the payments table. But I can't do a regular join. If I did a regular join, that's actually going to filter the data, and I don't want that. So I'm going to do a left join. Left join gives me everything in customers, even if it's not in payments. And that's exactly what I want. I want everything in customers, even if it's not in payments. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to filter when the payment is null, right? So when the customer number in payment is, or customer number in payment is null, that tells me that even though I joined this, the the payment is not there. So these customers exist, but the payment doesn't. And I see 24 rows here. And what I like to do is I like to check my work. So I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to use an inner join. So I'm going to select all the customers where the customer number, so I'm going to select all the customer names, but I'll fix that in a second. But I'm going to select all where the customer number is not within the payments table. And that's what I'm showing you here that I'm getting. So there's two ways to do the same exact thing. And one may be more obvious than the other. So I'll show you both ways here. And 24. Okay. So what is the result when running the following table? So this when running the following command, right? And so the idea is like look at the result, but this gives you an idea of the how the CTEs work. So that sales reps, that's a CTE. So we're gonna take that query and we're gonna run it, um, and we're going to see what it is and what does this actually mean? What does this represent? What is this query, right? So I'm actually setting up a CTE or temporary table where it gives me all the sales reps. Then I'm gonna join that information with the offices, and I'm gonna group by the cities. So I'm actually seeing um, which of these has the most sales reps. Which city has the most sales reps? And I can see the top are Paris and Sydney. So that is what this answers here. Write a query that returns the product line and average MSRP for all products in that product line, sorted in descending average MSRP price order. So I'm going to return the product line. Might have to go back to my product line or my products table to figure out what I need to do here. So I go back and try to figure out what fields I'm going to need. Again, I'm using VI, which is a very simple editor. Please use the tools that work for you. So I look at product line and I see product lines, but I also see products. Okay, so I think we're talking about products. There's a product line within products. And then there's the MSRP. So I look back at the question to figure out what I'm doing, and so here we go. So I realized, okay, let's go ahead and how do we do this? And please stop the videos. Try to do this on your own. So select product line, MSRP from products, right? And then, okay. So I have this information. I see, okay, product line, ships, planes, classic cars, fine. So how do I get the average? Okay, so to get the average of this, I probably want to call the average, right? So I want to get the average of the MSRP, and the function is AVG with average. And to call an average, right, and I'm naming it average MSRP, I actually need to group by something. So it's the average based on so I'm grouping by something, and that's product line in this example. So I run that, and that's going to give me the average MSRP for this product line. And then I'm going to order it, in this case, by MSRP, descending. And this is a mistake, and I'm going to see it as a mistake. Um, but this, I'm very confused by this error. It says a non-aggregated column, which is not functionally dependent on components and group by cost. Generally, when I see this, I think, okay, I'm grouping by something, or I'm trying to select a column that I'm actually not grouping by, and I'm not doing anything to. So I'm not getting the sum or the count or the average. And so I think, oh, maybe it's how I set up my variable avg underscore MSRP. No, I get the same error, and it took me a while to look at. But what's actually happening is that I'm selecting average MSRP, right? I'm grouping by product line, and then I'm trying to do an order by. So again, I still haven't really figured out what's going on. I actually try to run it again. Maybe maybe that'll help. But actually, I'm trying to do an order by MSRP. But MSRP is not being grouped by, and it's actually not. It's not the function. It should be average MSRP. So I realized, okay, maybe there's something with my order by, right? So there's something, and I'm looking. I say, okay, this is average MSRP, and this is what happens sometimes with SQL. You may like make a small mistake, and then it'll hit you that, hey, okay, I'm not doing something correct here. So I go and I realize, wait a minute, I'm ordering by the wrong thing. So I go back and I say, there's two ways to actually order by. I can order by a named thing, or I can go ahead and actually order. And so before I even get there, I realize, wait a minute, let me make sure it just works with group by. So I know that now it's the order by clause that's giving me an issue. So I'm going to try ordering by the second column. And the way you do that is you say order by 2. And that gives you in descending order. Okay, that worked. Great. Then I realized, oh, I was ordering by MSRP and not average MSRP or AVG MSRP. And that is what I'm going to show you now. I make that change and it works. Okay, you should try to do this one. What is the count of orders with a customer that does not have a state and the order date is greater than 2004-10-01? Okay, I look at to see where my relationships are and where state is located, um, where I'm going to get that value and how I'm going to filter this. Where is this information? Okay. It's not up there. I don't know why I stayed up there for so long. And then I realized, oh, I should probably just search instead of trying to scroll to the answer. So go ahead. What do I do? No idea why I clicked on that. Okay. Took me this long. Okay. Now I realize I should just search for orders. So hopefully that wasn't too bad. So I have order date on here. Okay. So let's do that. select from orders. Oh, or that order date. All right, so make sure I get the right spelling. Okay, okay. I'm just selecting all the orders. Okay. Order number. I'm selecting order date, and then customer number. Okay, so 123. Okay, that's just the order date, right? So I also said that the state of the customer is null. So to get the state of the customer, I actually have to join my orders table with the customer table. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to join orders with my customer on the customer number. And then I'm going to filter. So where the order date is greater than, and then I'm going to do a filter where I say and the state. So now that I have that reference, I join customers. I name it C. Uh, so that's my alias. So I can now query by that customer field state. We can see what that answer is. Okay, so it's 68 rows. I think the question was how many, so I can change this query instead of looking at all the fields, I can actually just change it to say select, and that's what I do next. This next question's actually not really too bad. I thought it was going to be harder. Write a query to obtain the unique office territories. Um, so I realized that, start looking at the information in the model. I realized territory is in under offices, so look for that information, find it in offices, and realize I could just do a distinct on that. So distinct gives us the unique values, so we can do distinct territory from in our table. So that's that question is not too bad. In this next question, we get the average length of the text description. So we're going to use average and also length, two functions. Besides that, the question is not too bad. I spent most of this time trying to figure out where it was text description. Should have just looked for that column myself. But anyway, I found it. And one of the things you need to realize is that you also need to know some of these functions. So I know average, we used it in a prior question, but there's also length. And so these single functions that you can use on columns are going to be very helpful. And I wasn't even sure if it was going to be length or len as programming languages. So I got a little bit lucky in the first go. Sometimes you won't, and just Google. Go on Google and say, "What's the SQL command to get length?" And so we're going to do it here. I get it in the first try, and I got lucky. I realize I've said a lot of questions are easy. This is a hard question. This question has a number of components. Which customer owes the most amount of money? For me to determine this, I actually have to know what the orders were and what the payments were. So I need to start creating some information that will give me, okay, how do I get basically how much money this person owes? And with how the data model is set up, the only way for me to do that is to try to create these queries that are going to give me information about the orders. So I look at the orders table and I realize, okay, um, there's the customer number, and then orders table, and then I see order details. Okay, so order details, and I have orders tables, and the orders table has the customer information, and then the order details actually has the financial information that I'm gonna need, right? So I start looking at this. I say, okay, well, for me to get what the total order amount was, I can use the order details table, and there's not a total amount there, so I actually need to specify that amount. I start thinking, okay, I can use a CTE, but then I say, you know what? Let me just use a regular SQL statement. I'm going to use two regular SQL statements. I'm going to get the information, and then I'm going to join it to using CTEs in a way that I care about. So what you'll see me do here is I'm going to get the sum, the amount. So I'm going to get the customer number. I forgot the R. Um, from the order details, I believe, from the payments. Okay, so I'm actually getting, so I'm getting payments first. Okay, so I'm gonna do payments first. Must have gotten that order off. So I'm looking at the payments. I'm doing this is the payment table. So this is the payments that they made. So this is not what they owe. For me to get what they owe, I need to figure out what the orders were, right? So how much do I owe on orders versus how much payments we have. So okay, payments was not too not too hard. We did select customer number, sum of payments from the payments table. So now how do we get it for the orders? Okay, so let's start this. Select customer number from orders. Oh, join order details. So I'm gonna join my orders with my order details because orders has my customer number. I definitely need that. So I get order number. Okay, that gives me the customer number. What else do I need? Okay, so I have quantity ordered and then price each. Okay, so I can multiply those. So I say quantity ordered times the price of each. That's gonna be, the value. But actually, I want this summed up. I'm actually gonna sum the value of the price each times the quantity order. And then I'm going to group by the customer number, right? Because otherwise I could end up with a number of customer order. And I'm going to name that column total order amount. Let me not forget to do my group by. I'm going to go ahead and do my group by here. Okay, customer number. Okay, let's see. Okay, I got a table. And that 496 is at the bottom of this table. It was also at the bottom of the other table. It looks like a very large number, which is good because the payments are almost in line with the orders there. So now what I'm going to do, I basically have the information, right? I could take this into Excel and I can figure out what the value is, but we have SQL, more powerful than Excel. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these SQL statements, we're going to transform them into CTEs. And along the way, I'm going to make a couple of little mistakes. Like here, I have a space in my orders. It's a weird one. So it tells me something's not right. It tells me where it thinks something went wrong. And I'm going to try it again and not see it again. But you can probably see it. Again, this is one of the challenges of working in something like this command line interface, right? You should be using better tools, right? Folks use tools like Data Grip or other SQL editors that allow you to have better control, almost like code, right? And so sometimes you're looking at this and you're trying to figure out what happened. Some of these editors will tell you exactly what happened. They'll help you write most of the SQL for you. So here I have a small error and I'm trying to figure it out. And Okay, I realized there's a space between ORDE and RS. And I go back to fix that change. And that was it, right? And so um, this code doesn't look great as in here. Okay. So now I have one CTE working. I have my total order CTE. Then I'll have my total payment CTE. Is what I'm going to work on next. And then I'm going to join those two CTEs. So CTEs are, they're like virtual tables, right? So these, as I'm doing these CTEs, I can now use them almost as tables. So I have some logic in there. I'm going to join it, and then I'm going to see, okay, who owes the most amount of money. Okay, here we go. We've gotten the query in a pretty good shape. And now we have a table. And that table looks like what we want. We have the customer number, we have the total amount. Um, and one of the things I can do is I can say, okay, well, let me actually just order by, I can order by um, these values. So total order amount minus the amount sum, right? So that'll give me, if I order by that, that'll give me the representation there. But I'd say, okay, why don't maybe I select it so that I can actually see the value. Um, I'm trying, I keep forgetting what the value is. So this is an important note about actually naming your values in a way that is always consistent so that you don't have to do this. You can sort of always remember what it is. I didn't do a good job with this, obviously. So, so select total order amount. I'm debating whether I actually want to select that first. I want to select the payment first. Okay, so sometimes I'll check my query. So that's something I'll do sometimes. I'll check to make sure I didn't break anything. I know that shouldn't have broken anything. Um, so that's the amount sum there that I'm getting from total payments. Now I want to get the total order amount. So I know exactly what I want to select now. So total order, order that total order amount. Then I try to do a paste, but then it pastes the wrong thing in there, which is a bit annoying. Again, working out of a terminal here. And then I delete too much, so um, that's not fun. Okay, so then I go back to my query, and I realize, okay, that was it. That was my query before I deleted something that I should not have. So I'm going to go ahead and actually put the right information. Okay, and I'm gonna do total order amount minus my payment, right? Um, I'll do my customer number. Okay, so that is gonna, and then I probably want to order that. And then I name that amount due, AMT underscore due, order by to descending. So the second column, limit by 5. Customer number and field list ambiguous. Whenever you see that customer number and field list is ambiguous, and I leave errors here on purpose, I want you to understand that that means that I'm trying to select or I'm trying to use a field and it's in multiple tables. It's usually one of the fields that we join by. If you see that error, it's because of that. Okay, so now we have customer number, we have the amount due, and we've sorted, and these are the top 5. So there is a customer who owes $10,000. Let's go to an easier one. How many customers have the word gift in their name? So please try this on your own. This is gonna we're gonna use a filter, and we're gonna use a filter like the ones we started with. So it's a like filter, and we use the percent sign to represent any other value. And so we say like gift, and then we see the number of rows. I decide to just show the customer name so that we can actually see the names and make sure we don't have duplicate. We can also use distinct if we wanted to, but just wanted to like show it see it myself. Obviously, one of the things this doesn't capture is the fact that you may have gift in lowercase, and I didn't take account for that, but something you should take account if you're doing some analysis on your own. Many customers exceeded their credit limits. So they have credit limits. How many of them exceeded it? This is a hard question, but it's easier now that we did the other question previously. So we're gonna actually leverage the other query that we used previously to figure out where the credit limits are. So let's look for credit limits. Let's see where it exists. So I find that credit limit is here within my customer. Right? Generally, that's the case. So we're going to use credit limit. We're going to figure out what the credit limit was, and then think about credit. We have to think about how much they owe, right? So for you to exceed your credit limit represents, okay, if I say your credit is $10,000, that means you can borrow, you can basically make payments. You can borrow up to $9,999. Once you get to 10,001 and you haven't made a payment, then we're in trouble. So a credit limit is breached when the amount owed is greater than the credit limit. And since we already did a query on the amount owed, we can leverage that and subtract that from the credit limit. That's essentially what I'm going to do now in the next coming steps. I'm going to be quiet. You try to do this on your own. You already have the information from the previous question. So I'll be quiet and I'll come in at the end. So here I start doing an order by, and I'm ordering by the credit limit. But I realize, why am I doing an order by? I should just actually filter this. So I'm going to filter where the credit limit minus my order amount minus, essentially credit limit minus the amount I owe is less than 0. So we can see that my total order amount is 81,000, total payments 38,000, so amount owed is 43,000. My credit limit was 43,000. So I've exceeded my credit limit with my amount owed, right? So that I've exceeded it by that first one by $525, that next one by about $9,000, and then the next one, what is that, about $6,000? It's probably not a good system if we're allowing people to reach their limits. Question 12. Select the employee number with the most direct reports. And I don't know why I have a question mark. Try this on your own. Pause the video. So here we find the field reports to. It's part of employees. So as I think about this, I realize, okay, this is not that bad. I can go ahead and just count the number of reports to that I have, because those refer back to the employees. So if we have employee A reporting to employee B reporting to employee A, employee C reporting to employee A, I can just count reports to, and that's how I get my answer. How many orders were ordered before 2004, January 6th, or have a status of disputed? The key thing in this problem is the or. So we haven't done, I believe we've done and, but in this time we're going to do or. That's really the only difference here. And I will let you try that on your own as I explore the data here. Next question. If we sort products by the difference between MSRP and buy price, which one will be displayed in the first row? Um, I realized I made a problem with this question is I didn't say in which order. I didn't say whether it was the biggest difference or the smallest difference. But the idea is the same. We are going to take two fields within the same table, and based on those two fields, we are going to sort the information. So we can take select. So select buy price and MSRP. Realize I probably should have a little bit more information. Product name helps. Maybe even more product code. Um, buy price, MSRP. Now I can select the difference, or I can just say from products, then order by the difference, right? So MSRP minus buy price. Now, one thing, um, right? So MSRP by minus buy price. So in this case, the MSRP was 214, and the buy price was 98. So almost 50% discount. I realized I didn't do both orders, so I did the other order. MSRP was $33 and the buy price was $22.57. So that one was $11 discount, whereas the other one was like $100 discount. So this one's $11.33, and this one was $214 versus 98, which is 116 difference. I hope you were able to follow along with this video, load that data, and actually do these SQL questions. If you have any questions about any of the methods or anything discussed today, feel free to reach out. Thanks again for your support.